Welcome everyone to today's Better Way Thursday workshop. We're so glad you're here. I just want to give you a heads up about the workshops we have coming up over the next couple of weeks. Next week, we have Ellen Toomey coming to talk to us. She is the founder of a company called You Are Techie. And she is talking, the title of her presentation is Why Tech Needs Moms. And the subtitle is Why Moms Need Tech. And her whole organization is helping women recognize it. It's very similar to our mission, but she handles things different ways. But just talking about why tech is such a great career for moms. So that's going to be a lot of fun to talk about next week. The following week, we have Crystal Mitchell, who's going to talk to us about writing an elevator pitch. And I know that we all need this conversation. A few weeks after that, we're having our first in-person meetup of the fall. So please come join us for that one. It's going to be a lot of fun. And of course, if you can't make it in real time, our videos are always available to watch a little bit later. So the most important thing I need to do today is introduce Kristen, and I'm so glad she's joining us today to talk about time management. I know I've mentioned this a couple of times, but when we get to Tech Moms graduation at the end of the semester, and we ask our women to share their biggest challenge of going through this program, almost every single woman says the biggest challenge was figuring out how to manage my time and fit everything in. So we know that this is a challenge that all of us face as busy women, as busy emerging professionals. So we were so grateful that Kristen was willing to talk to us about this. This is a subject that she is passionate about and spent a lot of time working on. So Kristen, I'm going to have you introduce yourself. So you could go ahead and start anytime, share your screen and go to town. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you so much for having me. And I want to dive right in. I'm going to be sharing some of my personal stories as we go on today. And so you'll learn a little bit more about me, but something that in every job I've had, I've constantly been passionate about professional development. I've been the chair of the committee at my company that drives professional development. And among that is things like time management and tips for productivity. And so I just love this stuff. I read every book I can, I listen to podcasts, and I try out things. I'm even writing a book right now about how to go after your goals when you have so much stuff, right? Because it's so easy to let life happen and to keep some of these dreams, these things you want to do in the back of your mind and never actually take the time to achieve them. Because it's one thing to say, I want to do this, and it's a whole other thing to actually take out the steps to do it. And that's the problem with time management, is that a lot of the time, you probably already know a lot of the tips that you need to do. Like you probably have like, okay, yeah, I know I should do a to-do list. I know I should check my timer. I know I should do whatever it is. But it actually, like, it takes time to do the things that will save you time. And so what I want to do today is I want to make it as interactive as possible, as fruitful as possible for you. So I want this to be interactive. I'm going to share my screen for a minute, and I have a whole ton of stuff that we're going to do together, a few exercises. But I want you, if you can, pull out a notebook right now, pen and paper in front of you, or maybe a digital notebook if you got OneNote, or open up a Word doc, an email, doesn't matter. Do something that you could take notes on. And part of that is going to be so that way it can help you pay attention and engage. When we write things down, we're actually more likely to remember them. So that's good there. But also because I want you to be able to participate, even if you're not in a situation where you can unmute yourself or type in the chat. If you can, please do. If you're in a spot where you can turn on your camera and I can see you, I love that. But no worries if you're eating your lunch and you don't want me to see you eat your sandwich, I get that. But if you can, use the functions in Zoom, raise your hands, or just go unmute, interrupt me anytime. I specifically wore my t-shirt today because I wanted to remind myself that this is casual. We are friends chatting. I'm going to give you a lot of information, but feel free, again, interrupt me anytime, and expect my technology to fail at some point, because that's going to happen. So we'll do this together and do the best we can. So let me share my screen. And there's a bit of a delay, so I'll just give that a second to make sure that's working. Perfect. All right. So the name of this workshop is why your time management strategies are failing. Now, the reason I titled it that, because again, as I said, you're probably already doing stuff and it's probably succeeding to a certain extent, But at the end of the day, we are human. And so I'm actually going to give you right at the start the answer to this question. The reason I think a lot of these fail is three main things. One, we forget why we're doing it. We focus so much on, oh, I got to be productive or I got to get this done. We forget why we even have it on our calendar to begin with. And that it's supposed to be fun. A lot of you, maybe you're doing a class right now with Tech Moms, you're trying to go in a new career, that maybe you've got a personal goal that you're trying to accomplish. Whatever it is, you've got something in mind, and it is all too easy to forget that you want to do it. So we're going to talk about that today. We're going to remind ourselves that you want to be here. You want to manage your time. It's supposed to be fun. Also, we feel guilty about it, right? How many of you schedule time to do something for yourself, but then one of your kids comes up and now all of a sudden they want to talk about their day or something else happens that interrupts your day or comes in. And so a lot of the times we feel guilty about doing anything for ourselves, and therefore we don't make time for it. So today, as I said, when we talk about our strategies in a little bit, we're going to actually discuss them. And I hope that you will use some of this time in this next 45 minutes to plan some of this. So if I give you a tip of, hey, adjust your notifications, take out your phone and adjust your notifications. If we're talking about our calendar, if you have to ignore me for a second to go and fix something, I want you to do it. Make this time for you. And don't feel guilty about doing it, because there's a ton of studies out there that show that actually the more time, when you reserve time for yourself, when you block out time in your day to do something that is a goal that you want to achieve, something that makes you feel alive and excited and something that you're passionate about, studies show that actually you end up being able to give more to the people around you because it invigorates you. It gives you life. We think that, oh, we have to protect all of these important parts of our day, and we cut out that stuff that makes us feel alive. And then we end up having the stuff that we said was so important. We end up not being our best selves in those moments. So when I say don't feel guilty about it, I really mean it, because when you carve out time to fill you up, then you are able to give more out to everyone around you. And then last but not least, we expect perfection. A lot of the time we find, how many times have you found a time management strategy and you're like, oh, Pomodoro technique. We're going to talk about that in a little bit. It's like, oh, this is brilliant. You try it and it works for a week, 2 weeks, 3 weeks. And then all of a sudden it stops working and you think, oh, I failed. You didn't fail. It's just life. So we're going to talk about that too, and go into each of these a little bit. So that's why some of these might be failing, but again, that's all right. You're human. Some of these might fail. The biggest takeaway I want you to remember today is that you are capable of growing and learning, and there is nothing about anything you have done in the past. If you have been really struggling to get to all the stuff in your calendar, to be able to do your job and that goal that you have, and also be there for your kids, your spouse, I want you to remember that whatever you have done up to this point, there's no part of that that's fixed. You have the ability to say, yes, you know what, I can stretch myself, I can grow. Just because I wasn't good at that last week doesn't mean I'm not going to be better at it next week. So we're gonna talk more about that in a minute, but just remember that just by being here and trying to learn more, you are already taking steps in the right direction and pretty much ahead of the game. All right, so now we've got a little exercise. Remember that pen and paper I told you to take out? I want you to write down and think about why you are here today. So when you, and you can think about this, if maybe you just saw this on LinkedIn and you joined and you're not part of Tech Moms, you're just part of the broader community. Maybe you came to this because you're like, oh, I need help managing my time. For Tech Moms, maybe you signed up to be a Tech Mom, to take a course, to do something. Why are you doing that? Do you have a specific goal that you're trying to accomplish? What do you hope to learn by being here today? And I'm going to give you a second to think about that. And if you're willing, if anyone's willing to unmute themselves or type your answer in the chat and share, I would love for you to do that. So again, take a second, think about Why are you here? All right, now I know we might be have some people multitasking because it is lunch. But if you're able to, give me a thumbs up on Zoom, or if you want to raise your hand, if you're willing to unmute yourself. I see some people are putting in the chat. Thank you, Robin. Please let me know why you're here. Now, I'm having you do this for two reasons. First, when we write something down, you are more likely to achieve it. Flat out research shows anytime you write down a goal, anytime you set out to do something, you are going to give it more time and you are more likely to actually do it. So by taking this time right now at this workshop and thinking about why are we here, what are we doing, you're going to be more likely to look back on this hour and say, oh, that was worth my time. That was worth it, because now you're more likely to engage. And then next, as we learned from the beginning, knowing our purpose is essential. Knowing why we want to do something, that's huge to getting to where we want to go. All right, is anyone willing to unmute and share? If not, I'll just take a look at the chat. I don't want to force anyone. All right, I love it. Someone share, I have a full-time job, full-time school, lots of kids, time management, super important to me. Thank you. Yes, you want to learn to manage work activities better. So focusing time on the highest value tasks. We got some strategies that we'll talk about for that later. That's great. You've developed your own goal management planner and hoping to learn from experts to see where I can improve and tweak my own system. Love that. That is the name of the game, tweaking. You're going to find something, it's going to work a little bit, and we're going to talk about the importance of looking back and seeing, okay, what adjustments can I make? All right. Thank you so much, ladies, for sharing that. When we talk about why we're here, I always like to encourage you to take an even further step back. So, you want to manage your work activities by focusing on the highest value tasks. Why do you want to do that? What is the most important to you? Now, I don't want to spend too much time in this today because I want to get right into the time management strategies, but I did want to hit on it real quick and talk about kind of the importance of understanding at a very high level who you want to be in this world. A lot of people talk about having a mission statement in the same way a company has a mission statement and a purpose. Every business has this. They know they need it because it's very easy to get off track. It's very easy to fill your calendar up with things that aren't actually helping you be the person and family that you want to be. And so the reason it's important to start with that, understanding that, is because later when we talk about strategies to prioritize, you want to make sure you are bringing everything back to that kind of personal mission statement. And it should be fun. I love this quote from Harvard Business Review where it talks about a really good mission statement. And there's a few that I'll read for you that are great. Let's see, Steve Jobs is known for saying, I want to make a ding in the universe. Short, sweet, he wants to make a ding in the universe. He wants to impact the world. My personal mission statement is I want to inspire people with my words, help them to be maybe a little bit better today than they were yesterday. Every decision I make, every goal I have, every time I prioritize something, I kind of filter it through that lens. Is it stifling my voice, or is it helping me reach other people and helping me reach those around me? Walt Disney said, I just want it to look like nothing else in the world. That was his mission. I just want it to be different. I want to look like nothing else. Bruce Springsteen said, more than anything else, more than fame or wealth or even happiness, I just want to be great. So he didn't care about the fame. He just wanted to know that he was doing the best. So I hope you'll block out some time right now if you can, or if you're watching this on video, pause and do this right now. Take time to think about, what is that mission statement for you? It should be something, as Dan Pelota says, that makes you yearn, cry. It should be something that fills you with life. That's like, yes, this is why I want to be here. This is why I had kids, why I'm trying so hard, why I care about prioritizing my time. Our goal is not to be productive, like to get more done. Let's remember why we want to get more done. What's that purpose? And make sure you keep that front and center as we go through and talk about these strategies. Bring it back to, why am I here? What's my mission? What matters to me? I've got an activity I want to move on to in just a second that's going to require a browser. So if you have a phone with a browser, or if you're at a computer and you can pull up a browser, please do that. I know we've got a bit of a smaller group, so but we'll do it anyway. So get ready to pull that, but I'll pause here just in case there's any questions on that idea of knowing your purpose and your mission. All right, let me pull up then. Let's see if this works. Oh, no, I guess switch my share screen. Duh. All right, switching share from my PowerPoint. Okay, you should be seeing that now. Okay, so as we dive into these strategies, I want to know what you're already doing. So at the top of the screen, there's a website, menti.com. So you can, again, you can pull up your phone browser, and then it's going to ask for a code. So that's the 3743 code. I'll also copy that link and put it in the chat, which I believe should bring you right to it if you're at your computer. And I want you to, first thing that comes to mind that you've already been doing, or maybe you found success in for a time management strategy you've tried. Now, put it in as few words as possible. So maybe like you've made a list, maybe you've blocked your time or something else. I know there was someone that put in the chat saying that you found some stuff successful. What are you using? Do you have a specific app you use? And then put in one, hit enter, and then you're going to get a chance to put in something else. So perfect. I see someone just put in to-do list. Now, as you come in and you put in more answers, more strategies that you've tried, if you see someone else do something that you've done too, I want you to also type that in. Because if you know this type of word cloud, if you've never seen this before, as the answers start to come in, any that are repeated, that are written more than once, are going to appear bigger. So at the end of this couple minutes, we're going to see if there's maybe one strategy that multiple people have tried that's standing out, or if there's, or if we just have a lot of different ones that we've tried. All right, so we got to-do list, structured schedule, 90-day sprints. Like that, 90-day sprints. Love to hear more about that one. Priority list, good. All right, I'll give you another minute. Think again, think back to the last week you had, the last month, when you had to sit down and do something. What are you trying, even if it's failing? What are you doing when you get out and when you start the day? Do you have a calendar? Do you maybe have a shared calendar with your family? Do you have any apps that you're using? There's To-Do, there's Planner, there's, you know, maybe something in Google. All right. See a few more coming up. This is great. So we got, okay, blocking time, strat plan, add it to the calendar, structure, schedule, priority. Nothing like the honesty. That is totally fine. I'm going to give you a lot. Shared calendar. Okay, great. All right, I'll give just one more second in case there's anything else there. All right, now whether you already have something that's been successful, or you are, you know, nothing's really been successful and you tried something once and it doesn't really work, I'm going to give you a lot of strategies today, and I hope that you will try some. So in the future, what I want you to remember to do, to kind of do now and then also do in the future, is to look at places where you've already been successful and see, okay, what can I do? What can I do to make that bigger? So these are called bright spots. I'm going to switch my screen back in a second to our PowerPoint. Just switch back. There we go. So this is if you've ever read the book Switch by Chip and Dan Heath, and by the way, in the chat, I'm going to drop a PDF of all of these slides. So you will have that. And there's also a resources slide that a few things I know I'm going to mention, I'll have those in there as well. So please keep taking notes if you are, because it'll help you remember, but just know that you'll have at least everything that's on these slides, you'll have that. So Chip and Dan Heath, they wrote a book called Switch, How to Change When Change is Hard. And they talk about a very memorable story is from Vietnam. And they said that they had an environmentalist or a person out there from a volunteer organization, and they were trying to help fix nutrition. So they go in this story and they talk about how this person is trying to solve nutrition problems. And if you think, okay, you've got a village and I need to fix nutrition, right? They're malnourished. How do I help make this better? Well, there are going to be some solutions to that that are really high, really hard, cost a lot of money, require government funding, things that require change that is kind of beyond the scope of what that person was able to do. So he said, rather than going outside, I'm going to look in and I'm going to find the bright spots, as Chip and Dan Heath called them. So what he did is he looked at all of the towns, he found all of the kids, all the villages, and he found the ones where the kids weren't malnourished. So they were all, they lived in the same country, had the same resources as everyone else, but there were a few places where it was being successful. And then he went in and he said, okay, why is this working? And he interviewed the people and he found out that some of the kids, they were eating the same exact food. They were just eating multiple meals throughout the day. So instead of eating 2 big meals, they were eating 4 small meals. And so by a slight change in strategy, based on what they already had, he was able to find success right there. And so I bring this up because as I dive into all of these strategies in a minute, and as you look back at your own stuff and what's been successful, I want you to remember that you have to look at your own bright spots. Because if you look at what's made me successful, or what's made Robin successful, or Mikkel, we are different people. We have different lives. We have different stuff going on. And so it's going to be very hard, take someone's advice. If they have a strategy, if they've got something, yeah, try it. But remember that it's going to look a little different for you. And so the most success you're going to find is looking at the own places in your life, the own times where you've been like, you know what, that worked. It didn't work every day. I tried to go to the gym every day and I only made it twice. But on those 2 mornings when I made it to the gym, what was successful? What went well? And how can I then repeat that? How can I then go back and maybe tweak it a little bit and try it again? All right. So another, before we dive into the strategies, one last thing. So another mistake that I said that we made is that we expect perfection. We think that this is going to work all the time. And I've been talking about this a little bit. And so I just want us to remember that time management strategies do not make a perfect map. I cannot say this enough. You're going to find something that's going to work, but it is not a map. It is like something to put in your suitcase to make the most of your time. Okay, so the difference, it's like saying, okay, I know that I should probably expect rain. Rain might happen. That's like understanding that rain might happen. So let's put in a raincoat. Let's put in an umbrella. But you might not use the umbrella. You might not use the raincoat, and that's okay. You're going to flex. There's going to be detours as you go on this trip, on this journey to where you want to go. And you need to expect that. This isn't a map. This is just stuff that we're going to put in our suitcase, and we're going to figure it out as we go. All right. So I want to dive into these essential skills. So there are so many time management strategies out there. So many. If you Google time management strategies right now, you're going to come up with 20 different listicles, 8 strategies, 25 strategies, 30 strategies, so many different ones. So I've tried to make this manageable, and I've kind of broken it up into 5 essential skills. What I mean by that is these 5 things are things that you should really be doing if you want to get the most out of your time and have the most fun with it and reaching your goals. Then you should be doing these 5 things in some way, shape, or form. We're going to talk about some strategies, and I hope if people are able to have some discussion, we can around them. But you can choose. You can choose how to do it. So we'll go into these. But again, these 5, you should really be doing something in each of these categories. So and then I'll dive into that. But the how is up to you. And that's the thing they're going to have to keep trying and tweaking and figuring out. All right, so let's go into this first one. So break it down. I think this came up in the word cloud, and someone may have mentioned it in the chat. Oh, and I see a question come in there. I'll come back into that. I'll make sure I get back to that after. I'm also leaving time at the very end to make sure that we, if I miss something, that we can get to it then as well. Okay, let's see. So break it down. This is something that everybody should be doing with anything you do. The biggest roadblocker is that we get just overwhelmed with all the stuff that we have to do, and we're also not doing it in the most efficient way that we can be. We're wasting time. We end up multitasking, which ends up making our productivity go down. Multitasking can actually lower your IQ, make you not do as good. It can make you dumb. Whatever you're trying to do, you're not going to be your best person. And so by breaking it down into chunks, it allows you to tackle different things at different times. Now, a to-do list is a classic example of this, right? You're like, okay, I've got a whole bunch of stuff to do. Let me break it down, and maybe I'll organize it a little bit. Maybe I'll say, all right, I'm going to tackle this stuff. Think of it like cleaning your house. You're not going to go and vacuum your basement and then go clean the windows upstairs and then go back down to the garage and go somewhere else. You're probably going to do one room at a time. If you can have a to-do list, then you're able to kind of manage it a little bit like that. But here is a place to be wary, is the problem of the never-ending to-do list. Now, there are some, the To-Do app by Microsoft is one of my favorites because it allows you to have multiple lists, a never-ending list that just has all of the stuff that usually exists in your head, but you don't want to forget, right? But then each day, you can add things to it from the other lists. So each day you are making a brand new list. And then if you don't finish it by the end of the day, well, guess what? Tomorrow you get a
All right, good thing I have my second computer here because it just looked like my other computer crashed. Can you hear me still, Robin?
Yeah, I can hear you now. You did freeze up for a second. I wasn't sure if it was on my end or yours.
I cannot.
I got you back.
There we go. Okay. All right, so I am going to try to restart my other computer while I power through. Looks like my slide is still there, so we can chat. I want to chat about this anyway for a second. So however you do your to-do list, make sure that you kind of have that idea of keeping 2. You've got your long list of all of the stuff you need to get done, but then you're going to have that thing that's going to say, all right, I'm going to do just this stuff today, or I'm going to do just this stuff this week. Because if you only keep having that really long list, then you're just going to get discouraged before you get anything done. Has anyone else had that happen to you before, where you just feel like my list never ends?
100%, 1000%. Absolutely. And I love the idea of that, of having that evergreen list. I've done that before. Like I've made a list, just not on an app, on a piece of paper, where I've just said like things to do sometime. Like this is my longest, yeah, the perpetual list, Jennifer. That's exactly right. And so I love the idea of having an automated app that stuff's not going to go away. I'm not going to lose that list, but today I'm going to focus on what's most essential for today, and know that I don't have to keep all of that coming on all the time.
Absolutely. You don't want to get overwhelmed. And then there is, I'm have my other computer back up in a second and can share my screen. Another way to prioritize is called the Eisenhower Matrix. Has anyone ever heard of that before or used that before?
No, I've never heard of it.
Thank you, Trissa. Well, the Eisenhower Matrix is, to be honest, I've never done it before because it doesn't work for me. And I'll tell you why in a second. It's important to know yourself. But the Eisenhower Matrix is a way to take all of the things that you have to do and divide it up based on urgency and importance. And so it's essentially a way of saying, all right, what's the stuff that has to get done right now, today? What's the stuff that I can schedule and do later? And then what's the stuff that, you know, it's important, but maybe I can delegate it. Maybe it doesn't have to, you know, get done right now. And then there's going to be a box that's what's the stuff that I can just delete, that I can just get rid of, that doesn't reach my mission, that doesn't help me get to where I want to go. It can be really hard to delete that stuff. But there might be some things that fall into that category. All right. 1 second, and should be joining my other Zoom meeting.
Trissa's asking if that Eisenhower method is maybe similar to Stephen Covey's method of prioritizing. Are you familiar with Stephen Covey's method?
Oh, I'm trying to think. I think the Eisenhower was Tony Robbins.
Yeah. Katie's saying it sounds the same. So I wonder if, you know, if there are similar types of ways of prioritizing.
Absolutely. Okay, there we go. All right. Sorry, switching back. You can still hear me, Robin, right?
Yep, I can.
Perfect. Okay, you guys get to see what my actual background looks like. This is why I have a blue screen behind me.
I love it. I love that wood paneling. It's great.
All right. There are so many names of time management strategies that are going to have a lot of overlap, because it's essentially a lot of people trying to figure out the same thing, and everyone kind of puts their own little twist to it. And so I wouldn't be surprised if Stephen Covey has something very similar, because there's a lot out there that talks about the importance of prioritizing. And again, like those listicles, if you Google time management right now, it's probably going to be on every one because it's important. But here is where you want to be careful with prioritization. For me, it does not always work, because I don't really have a hard time figuring out what my priorities are or what's most important. The thing that I struggle with personally is just getting started, is actually saying, okay, I know what to do, but I have to actually do it. I have to actually start. And so if that's you, if you're struggling with getting started, you might find that some of the prioritization stuff doesn't actually work for you. And what might be better is to just start with the easiest thing. That's actually, there's a, oh gosh, blanking on this name. I'll have it in my notes. But there is a method for getting out of debt. It's called the Debt Snowball. And if you look at saving money, the best way to budget and save money and get out of debt would be to pay the biggest bills first, right? The most important stuff, the stuff that has the highest interest rate. Financially, it makes complete sense. That's what you have to do to get out of debt. If you pay that big one first, then you'll end up owing less money in the long run. So if you look at a financial advisor, they might tell you, oh yeah, that's the one you got to pay first. But if you look at the truth of behavior change and habits and getting stuff done, sometimes the hardest one, the biggest one, is the hardest one. And so it could be so hard. And so you end up not starting it, putting it off, you end up wasting time. Whereas if you had just started with a simple, easy task, then the feeling, and this is why he calls it a snowball, it's because you get that satisfying feeling of, oh, I checked off something on my to-do list. Yes. And then you go to the next thing and the next thing. And so for me, that's the method that works for me. I don't prioritize. I just say, what can I do right now? What's the easiest thing? I'm going to do that, because I know that as soon as I get moving, I won't be able to stop. All right, just checking on the chat here, just making sure we don't have any questions. All right. Thank you, ladies, for typing in the chat, participating. That's great. All right, the last one for breaking it down is chunking your time with the Pomodoro technique. So this one, if you go to tomatotimer.com right now, it'll pull up a timer that you can set, and it'll go off in 25 minutes, and then it'll give yourself a 5-minute break. Now, this type of chunking your time, it helps you focus and say, all right, I'm going to do something. I'm going to do it for 25 minutes, and then I'm going to stop. There's also the saying that, you're going to fill the time, whatever time you have, that's how long something is going to take. And so what the Pomodoro technique also does is it helps you, if you prioritize something and if you realize, you know what, this doesn't matter as much, it's not as important, I still have to get it done, but really I shouldn't be giving any more than 25 minutes to this. That's how much value it has. It's 25 minutes worth of value in my life. I need to do it, and that's how I'm going to do it. By chunking your time like that, it helps you to make sure that you don't end up spending 5 hours on something that you should have only spent 2 on. So real great technique there. All right, and this is the Eisenhower Matrix. If you've never seen this, again, you'll get these slides at the end. So you're kind of blocking things into level of urgency, very urgent or not urgent, and then important or not important. So if it's urgent and important, you might want to do that first. If it's important but not urgent, don't do it today. There's no reason you have to do it today. Schedule it. Give yourself some of that space. And then urgent, not important, maybe you could see if someone else can do it. Not urgent, not important, delete it. You don't need that in your life. Any questions about time chunking or blocking your time? I see Katie loves the Pomodoro technique. Awesome.
I just wanted to throw in that I love your own comment that you don't use this because it doesn't work for you. And I think that's going to be so essential for all of us, is understanding how we work. Like I'm not a starter, but I'm a finisher. And my husband's a starter, but not a finisher. And so between the two of us, we can usually get stuff done because he'll like empty out the whole garage. Great. And so like understanding yourself to say, if I want to get something done, I need something to get me started, because that's not my natural tendency. So I love that important detail that we need to understand ourselves and how we work so we can know which strategies are going to be best for us.
Absolutely. All right, let's dive into limit distractions. Now, this is where if you've got if you have something that you use maybe in work or for your family, or you've got your phone out and you haven't already, but take the time right now, adjust your notifications. Now, this is something that is so important. Again, remember, this is essential. There's different ways to do this, but you should be doing it. What was it? I'm blanking on the name of that Netflix documentary. Did anyone watch that on social media? Remember the name of it? It was all on like Facebook and social media.
I can't remember it either, but I know what you're talking about.
I'm blanking on the name.
The social something. Yeah.
The Social Dilemma. Yeah. So Social Dilemma, great documentary. The best part is in the credits. So when the credits are rolling, they're asking all of the people that created Facebook, create these social media platforms. They just spent 2 hours talking about how bad they are, about all this stuff that's interrupting our lives and making it impossible for us to focus. And then they ask them, well, what do you do? What do you do in your life? You invented Facebook. You invented this, Instagram, TikTok, whatever it was. you invented this. Do you use it? And the answer every time was yes, but I turn off my notifications. This is essential for time management. We are not meant to be interrupted all the time. And this goes along with chunking our time, with what we just talked about of breaking your time into manageable blocks. If you break up, this is when I'm going to answer my emails. This is when I'm going to work on, writing that thing. This is when I'm going to spend quality time and play with my daughter. Whatever it is you're going to do, you should factor in your notifications to that. Make sure that your text messages, anything else, isn't filtering through. And if you have kids and you're worried about, well, if I put my phone on silent, I need to be able to hear my spouse or my kids or something if there's an emergency. There are settings for that. You can look up on your phone and you can make sure that just your partner's number comes through, or just your kids' numbers comes through, and everything else gets shut off. So do something to make sure that when you set out to work on whatever it is you want to work on, you are making that decision. You are doing it. You're not having stuff come in and interrupt you constantly. And there's a few more on here, and I'm going to link a resource article too if you want to read it. It's actually one that I wrote, but it outlines a few of these approaches. There's the sterile cockpit approach, which is blocking off chunks of time. So this is actually something developers use a lot with coding, where they have to write a bunch of code all at once. And so they say, all right, you know what? For our team, no meetings. Every Monday, Wednesday, Friday from 9 to 10, or 9 to 12, there's no meetings allowed, because that's when my team is going to be coding. So there's certain methods like that you can try. Untouchable days is another one. It's especially important if one of your goals is creative. If you're trying to be a writer like me, I'm working on my book, I get distracted so easily, and I lose my flow, I lose my motivation. And so if I try to, as much as I can, block out an entire day where I say no lunches with friends, no, I keep my phone on silent as much as I can, and I just go and I just write. Because sometimes it takes 8 hours to get 2 hours worth of creative work done. But I need the space to be able to get there. And I need to give myself that. And then finally, the last one, and again, everyone's life situation is different, but try to get on the same page with everyone in your house. Now, this can be really hard. If you have young kids, if you don't have an office, we can close away, but there's some things you can do, during the pandemic, when my husband had an office and he would be on meetings, and I would just walk into the room, not realizing that he was on a meeting because there's no door. So we put up a light, and anytime the light was green, I knew I could come in. I wouldn't be disturbing him. If the light was red, I knew he had to stay out. I had the same thing for my office door. I had a little sign that said, "I'm writing." And I would hang it on my door, and so that way he would know not to come in and interrupt me. So finding something like that might be something that can help. All right, let's check in. And again, feel free, if you've got a comment, something that's worked for you, or something you just want to share, please unmute yourself and share with the group, because part of this is not just learning from me, but it's learning from each other. All right, this one, factor in your health. Exercise matters, breaks matter, sleep matters. And this is just an important thing to remember. And some of the techniques we've already talked about help with that. The Pomodoro technique. If you have a job or a goal that requires you sitting at your desk, you're not meant to sit in a chair at a computer for too long. You should be getting up for your health. You should be getting up every 25 minutes, or at the least every hour. So using some of these strategies, factor that in, give yourself time. And we need breaks. There are settings that you can adjust for your meetings in Outlook. You can change the default setting of a meeting to be 50 minutes or 25 minutes. This is something I always do. So every time I schedule a meeting, it builds in an automatic 5-minute buffer, which is essential for your mind if you have a lot of video calls. Microsoft did a huge study saying that just a 5-minute break, you might be thinking, oh, is it worth it? Just a 5-minute break allowed the brain to reset in between virtual meetings. So building that stuff in, building in time for that, really makes a huge difference. And Don't be afraid to say no. All right, I want to make sure I'm breezing through these because I want to make sure I give us at least these last 10 minutes for any questions. Be intentional. Like I said, don't multitask. I have an extra resource and article I'm going to attach that talks about the difference between multitasking and multi-purposing. When people multi-purpose, it's the idea of taking two things, doing them at the same time, but they're not two things that require a higher function. So I do this. I really like reading. I like learning. I want to read a lot. I also like to exercise and go for walks. So I listen to audiobooks while I train for my marathon. I don't need higher thinking to run. I just run. There's nothing that's going to decrease, at least for me personally, if I listen to books while I run. So that's a way that I can stack those two things together. It's called habit stacking or habit recipe. And so you can put those together, but make sure you're not multitasking, which is trying to do everything all at once. Don't say yes right away. Try asking questions. Just because someone says, hey, I need your help with this, doesn't mean they need it right away. Say, hey, when is this due? What's the deadline for this? Can we maybe push this to next week? A lot of the time, the pressure we put on ourselves to do something today or this week comes from us. It doesn't even come from the other people. So ask questions before you add it to your calendar. Schedule in working time. And then most importantly, words matter. Years ago, I got in the habit of making sure I stopped saying, I'm so busy, or my schedule is so busy. And I tried switching it out with the word full. My schedule is full, because it was very full of a lot of stuff I really wanted to do. It was all stuff that brought me joy. But as soon as I catch myself starting to say busy, I stop and I say, do I need to take something out? Because there's a difference there. You can have stuff all day long and you can have so many things in your calendar and be so happy and satisfied. But if it feels busy, then maybe just take a minute, take a step back and think, okay, does everything need to be here? Is there anything that maybe I can delegate, I can ask someone else to do or switch out? And I know there's some seasons of life where you just can't and you're going to feel busy, and that's okay too. But if you can try and get in that habit of saying, you know what, it's full and it's great and it's all good stuff. And then it might start to actually feel that way as well. All right, last but not least, reflect and adjust. I've said this a lot and I want to end here. Humans make mistakes. So give yourself time to correct them. This is something that's incredibly important. Any type of project management strategy, Scrum methodology does this. You build in a retrospective meeting. You build in time to be able to say, okay, what went wrong? And when we do that, we don't just want to look at what went wrong, but want to look at why it went wrong. A lot of the time, and I do this all the time, I look back at my week and I only see the mistakes. I only see the days that I wanted to get up early and exercise before work and I didn't. Or the days when I said, I'm going to work on this chapter of my book and I watched TV instead. Or I said yes to coffee with someone because I wanted to and I wanted to see them. So many times, and I only look at the failures. But it's important to make sure that we look at why. What was the reason for that? Is there something that I can do different? Maybe it was something that I need to change. Maybe it was something that it wasn't really me, it was the environment. It was the situation. And maybe I can pull in my family or other people to help with that. Maybe there's something I can change. Or maybe life just happened. And that's okay too. And it wasn't a mistake. Okay, this is going to show my nerd. There's a Star Trek episode, that's my favorite, where there's this robot that Data, I think his name is, and he is perfect, right? He's a robot. He's a sentient being, not sentient robot. Anyway, he's perfect, but he doesn't win a game. He loses. And so he wants to take himself out. He says, I can't work because I lost. There must be something wrong with me. And Captain Picard says, sometimes you can make no mistakes and still lose. That's not failure, that's life. So as we go through this, as you leave here today, if you're going to remember anything, remember that. Sometimes you could do no wrong and it just still doesn't work out. That's life. The best thing that we can remember is that we can grow. You have the ability to learn and grow. And I have more slides that I did not get to today, but they will be in the PDF after. So you'll have some more resources there about being optimistic and learning and being open with a growth mindset. So, all right. Wow, that time went by so fast.
Isn't it crazy? It always does. And you had so much amazing stuff to share with us. I'm just like processing everything. But I'd love to open this up. We've got a few more minutes for questions. Please either throw your questions in the chat or feel free to just unmute yourself because we would love to hear what information. I mean, Kristen's got so much knowledge and expertise here. I would love for us to be able to leverage that right now in the next couple of minutes. I've got a few questions myself, but I want to open the chance for anybody else to share questions right now if they've got them. There was one up in the chat I remember from the very beginning. Trista, you go ahead and share yours now.
Hey, Kristen, what have you found is most effective? I know there's a lot of digital tools to help, and then there's the physical planners. What do you find most effective? And then have you found a way to blend? If you use the planner written method, do you incorporate digital in with that? And what does that look like?
Yes, great question. So anything I say to you right now, remember, it probably works for a season, or I might try it and it's going to work for like a month and then it's going to stop working and then I'm going to switch it up and try something else. But things that have worked for at least a significant period of time for me that I've used, I mentioned it, the To-Do app. So any type of application where you can have it on your phone and your computer is really great. Because that way, when you're out and about and your mind is moving, remembering all the things you have to do. I think I saw someone, laying in bed and, remembering, thinking of all the things you got to do the next day. Anytime that you can get that on the list now, like real quick, just when you pull out your phone, I got to remember to do this. I got to remember to do this. You're kind of throwing it there so you don't have to worry about it. And then I go back and I sit at my computer and I pull it up on my desktop and I say, all right, here's all the stuff I threw on here. And then that's when I do a little prioritization. Is this actually important? Nope, that was a fleeting thought. I don't need to do that. Or yes, let me build this out. So To-Do app is great. I've used other apps with my teams like Planner. OneNote is my godsend. I use OneNote all the time. Again, digital notebook, so I can pull up pages anytime I get inspiration or want to remember to do something. But I try very hard to stick with the chunking method. So my mind doesn't always want to. So I have my OneNote, so that way when I'm running and I get inspiration, I can jot down my idea, but then I put it away and I go back to the other thing.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I love that tip because I think many of us, like even as much as we're trying to focus on one thing, our brain it's always thinking of things. So I love the idea.
Yep.
Stay focused on your thing. Write down the other thing so you don't forget it, you don't lose it, and then you can return your focus. We had another question earlier in the chat about how to write our own mission statement. How do we do you have any tips for that? Like how do we create something like that? It feels so daunting, so big.
Yes. Oh, do I have tips? I wrote a whole chapter on it, and I've got a whole section of my book is understanding your mission. And so I'll say, at a very high level, the first thing I encourage people to do is start from scratch. It is really easy to jump in and kind of make assumptions based on the way that you've already been spending your time, but and stuff you've already been choosing to do. But that's not necessarily who you are or who you want to be. We are the sum of everything that has happened to us up until this point in life. And maybe you're on the right track, but maybe you're not. And it's so rare that we ever take time to stop and think, do I do this because that's who I am? Or do I do this just because that's the way it's been? That's kind of how it started. And I just kept going and I don't even know if I like it. So I say start from scratch and then think about your goals and work backwards from there. So what I mean by that is if I think about, what what's the stuff you've signed up for? What do you want to do? If you could think of anything that you want to do or be, and kind of write those down, and then sort of form them into groups, and see, is there a theme here? Is there something that's standing out? Because it could be really daunting to think of like, oh, what's this high level mission statement that I'm going to run everything through and just, listen to for the rest of my life. You can change it. It doesn't have to be for the rest of your life. But if you at least think about, what's that stuff I want to do and why do I want to do it? You might start to see some themes emerge from there. And then test it out, like write it out and think, all right, does this feel good? And then the next time you have to make a decision, should I add this to my calendar or should I not? If you run it through that statement, does it feel like it makes sense for you? If not, then try something else.
Sorry about that alarm just going off.
Oh, no worries. Yep. 11:59.
I know, that's
12:59.
yeah. Reminding me, got to stop. But I love those two ideas that you're starting from the beginning with the clean slate, starting from scratch, but also looking at the end, like putting both those things in mind. What a great way to see the whole picture as you're trying to determine what your mission is. We are out of time.
Yeah,
Kristen, this has been fantastic. Oh, go ahead. Did you have
Oh,
something?
no, I just wanted to throw that slide on the end as a just summary of what we did. So no, that was it.
I love it. I love it. This is so great. And we're excited to, have these slides and take another close look at them. And I'm super excited to read your book. That is so inspiring to me. Congratulations for you for writing a book. Huge, daunting and inspirational goal, and super exciting. All right. Thanks everybody so much for joining us. Please remember to look at our workshops for the next couple of weeks. We'll have a full slate of them over this fall. And if you've got any questions, you can reach out to me. But thanks again, everybody, and have a fantastic afternoon. We will catch you later.